Hello everyone, this is indeed inspiring for tech to see you back again. And here we are coming with a new series related to Python programming. And this would be from very basic. So those who want to learn the foundations of what programming is, what Python is. So this will be a good start to kick off your journey into the programming field. So do let me share my screen and let us go through the presentation where in today's episode we will be first understanding about the programming paradigms, which can be also called as the types of programmings we have. So maybe you can be the students or student of first year, second year, third year, or you may be a working professional. You might have gone through the various types of programming languages, but those programming languages are supported with some types or some paradigms. So with to kick off with, we will first understand the basics of programming, and then we will jump into what exactly Python is, where it is used, how we can um, work with Python in various domains and fields in the industry as well. So in this very first slide, you can see what program is. So you might have planned a trip with your friends, with your colleagues to different places. So whenever you plan a trip, it is nothing but a program. Like you make some plans, like what you will do first, what will be a second thing you will be doing, what will be a third thing which you will be doing. So similarly, program is same kind of you can say instructions, or you can say some planning where we write what exactly computer needs to do. So program is nothing but a set of instructions. So here you can see the example, like start walking can be an instruction, stop, sit down are some of the basic examples of instructions. So whatever, like whenever we are into our homes, we get many instructions from our parents. When we are into college or schools, we get instructions from our teacher. So those instruction can be also called as program. Similarly, when we are into office, our managers, our team leaders give us the instruction. So those instruction, as I said, can be called as program. So similarly, when I talk about computers, laptops, we have got some instruction like power on the computer is the instruction, press the start button on the keyboard, click on settings. So these are various types of instructions we are having. So these instructions are nothing but program. Now the question comes in, then what is programming? If program is about the instruction, then what is a programming? To simply create those instructions or to write those instructions is known as programming. So whenever you get or you plan for a trip, you first jot down or note down or send those instructions into your WhatsApp groups, like how you will be planning that particular trip and executing it. So similarly, writing any kind of instruction can be called as programming. But when, to be more specific, when we are using programming languages and write some instructions using those programming languages, it may be C, C++, Python, Java, C Sharp. There are many examples we have. So when we do that, it can be called as programming. So I hope you are understanding the difference between what a program is and what programming is. So someone who writes the program or use any kind of programming language, he's known as or he's called as a programmer because he's writing those instructions, he's writing those programs. Right. Now just imagine whenever a developer creates a software or application, what he is doing, he's basically writing those instruction like how that particular application will be working, or what will be the features of that application. So those instructions are being written using different programming languages. All right, so let's move further. Now, what programming languages? So first, what languages? So in our day-to-day life, we exchange talks with many different people. We communicate with multiple people, or we come across different kind of personalities, and to communicate with them we use some language. Nowadays we all know there is too much of controversial rows going around language, but we are not talking about that. So what language we use generally to communicate with people? We use our local languages, may it be a Marathi, may it be a English. To communicate with you guys, I'm using a language which is English, because this languages are human understandable language. This can be understood by you, by me, or any other people who is residing in that locality. Similarly, when I talk about programming languages, it is nothing but a language which is understandable by a computer, and which helps us to write a program to instruct the computer. So writing a program can be also simply called as writing a code or simply coding. So in very frank and casual manner, we call our friend that he's a coder, he do coding. So coder, coding, and whoever is doing coding is simply, it means that he is writing a program using some language which is understandable by computer. Okay, now something which is understandable by computer, that language should be known to us, right? Like if I want to give instructions to a computer, I should know that language. May it be a Python, may it be a Java, may it be a C++, whatever you are comfortable with, right? Now let's move ahead and now understand what exactly we understand by process. Now you can simply understand this by the same analogy which we are taking, that about trip. So you planned your whole trip, and once you start your journey for that particular trip, it means that you are in a process of that particular trip. So similarly in programming as well, whenever a set of instruction or whenever a set of program is in execution state or simply in a running state, is known as process. So, if you have previously used any kind of environment for programming, may it be a Google Colab or a Jupyter Notebook or a VS Code. So, once you execute those programs, it doesn't give you the results instantly or the output instantly. Why? Because it runs into the background, it convert those languages into into computer understandable language, which is binary language or mnemonics, whatever it was used earlier. So for now we all know that whatever we write programs into Java, Python, or C++, it gets converted. So that conversion, which is understandable by computers, first, like it get executed, it gets into process. So once the code, the program is in the execution state, it is known as process. All right, now here comes in two important aspect where we need to understand what is the difference between compiler and interpreter. Okay, now when I talk about compiler, so compiler is something where whatever code we have written, whatever program we have written, it gets translated into machine code at once, which means that if I write a program to calculate the percentage, so for that I would require 2 to 3 or 4 lines of code. If I talk about Java, so once I do that, whole code will get converted into byte code or machine level language, machine code at once. Okay. Now, but when I talk about interpreted language, it runs the code line by line. Okay, we don't have to compile those code first and then execute those, because in interpreted language, whole code runs line by line using the interpreter which we are having. So when I talk about Python, Python is a interpreted language. Whereas when I talk about C++, Java, so these are some of the examples of compiled languages where the whole code first get converted and then we execute those codes. Now, to understand it more, we can have a simple analogy where it is uh, where we can take an example. Let's say we have a kid whom we are narrating a story. So the story goes, let's say, in it is being from mobile phone. He is listening the story, or in some other language, let's say English. But that kid doesn't understand that English. So what we did is we first listen that story, whole story at once, and then I translated that whole story to that kid. So this example can be of compiled level languages where we are translating whole story at once. Now, if I talk about interpreters, what it does is I will listen the 10-second part of the story or 15-second part of the story from that particular channel or whatever media I'm using, and I will translate it to that kid. Then again I will listen for 15 seconds, 10 seconds, again I will narrate it. So this way it will go. So interpreter is all about translating the program line by line into machine level languages which is understandable by your systems. Okay, so Python is an example of interpreted language, while compiler is an example of the Java or C++ is an example of compiled level languages. All right. Now let's move ahead and let's understand what do we understand by algorithms. So when I talk about algorithm, it is nothing but a step by step approach to solve a problem. Okay, whether it's a big problem like how to navigate a robot in a maze, or something simple like how to make tea. So everything like these are two different problems, and everything can be broken down into an algorithm. Like this problem would have some approach to solve those. Now let's say if you want to buy a cup of a tea, so this is your problem statement. So I will have some steps to get it done. And it would be, let's say, I will first check for the tea shop nearby me. Then second step would be, if that shop is present, I will check if do I really have the amount or money to purchase that tea. If yes, I will visit there. I will order the tea. If this conditions are not satisfying, let's say I'm not having enough money, I will not order, right? So this is a simple real life algorithms where when we convert this into code, we will have different, I will say, techniques in programming where we use conditions, where we use loops, we use functions to represent the steps in programming to solve these real life problems. Okay, now let's move ahead and try to understand about the programming paradigms. So, programming paradigms are nothing but the types of programming we are having. Okay, and this is the core topic of today, which we are discussing. So, these are nothing but different styles, or I can say ways to write the programs. So, depending what the problem statement is and what is the mindset of the programmer, he or she can choose different paradigm or different programming. Okay, so now let's say I'm a developer, but I'm much or more comfortable with Python. Okay, so Python has got some web development frameworks as well. If I talk about, there is a Django which we can use to develop whole backend of the application. We have got Flask. Okay, now if I talk about Java, Java has got Spring Boot. It has uh, other frameworks which can be used to write the programs or to solve or to develop the softwares or the applications. Okay, so the four major paradigms we are having, those are procedural programming, object oriented programming, logical programming, and functional programming. Now, before getting into those paradigms, let's first understand how this programming languages has got evolved. Okay, so programming just doesn't start with Python or Java. It has evolved in stages. So very initially, or if we go in the very uh, uh, in the start of the programming, we had got something known as binary languages. Okay, now what when I talk about binary language, so this is the very first way to program a computer. There were only just zeros and ones, and which were very hard for people like us or humans to write those binary languages. Then moving further, after some time gone, we have got some languages which was known as assembly language, which was a step forward, where we used short codes like mov, add, subtraction, which was easier than binary, but still it was difficult. But these languages actually were used to communicate or to interact with the hardware of the systems. Okay, then if I talk about procedural languages, which we have in this particular slide, so this are easier for humans to write, to understand, and to use, I will say, logical steps and control the structures. Okay, and from this point, are different types of programming got emerged. So procedural programming language, or the procedural programming, is something where we write the code as a series, I will say, or I will say there would be step by step instructions will be given in procedural programming language. Now, by the name only, we can understand there is procedure. To achieve something, we have to follow a procedure, and that procedures we write using this procedural programming languages. Like, simply understand, I want to prepare a dish. So for preparing that dish, I would have a recipe to prepare it, right? So I will write those procedures, or those functions that the program will call it to perform that task, to prepare that dish. Okay, so procedural programming is all about where we are having the linear steps, which means that after first step we will have this second step, after second step we will have this third step, and this will go further. To understand it more clearly, it would be like, um, let's say I want to prepare a cup of tea. So for preparing a cup of a tea, I will have to have the gas. I will have some utensils. I will keep that utensil in the gas. I will have to pour some water. I will uh, use some tea powder. Then I will have some sugar into it. Then I will pour milk. Then I will boil it for some for 2 to 3 times. Then I will have that cup of tea to sip it, right? So what we did, we had some steps. So that steps can be written in procedural language, and C programming language is one of the great example of procedural programming language. And not only C, other programming languages are also meant to, or are able to write the program in procedural manner as well, but they were meant or built for something else as well. Okay, so as I told, like you can think of a cooking where you are following a recipe and you follow each step from the recipe in a particular manner, in a same order as it is given. So this is all about procedural programming languages. Now let's discuss one of the most important programming paradigm, which is object oriented programming language. Now when I am discussing about OOPS, if I take this topic separately, it will go for around 45 minutes to 1 hour, but we will discuss in very just. And while implementation part, whenever we will be implementing this OOPS concept, we will have this in a good discussion we will have into this. Okay. Now, object oriented programming languages, or simply we can call it as OOPS, is very popular paradigm, and it is almost used in every paradigm, may it be a Java, C++, Python, C sharp, R, everywhere we can find this OOPS language. Now why this is popular and why it is known as object oriented programming language? So understand, in OOPS everything we have is treated as an object, and these objects are created using classes. Now we have got OOPS programming language. Under that, we have two concepts of classes and objects. Now, I said one line where I told you that everything is treated as object. What does it mean and why it is so? Why? What was a requirement? What was the necessity to bring in objects into programming? Now, whatever problems we are solving in real world is to be represented into programming, or we have to solve those using the programming. So it was very much necessary to represent those objects into programming, the real life problems we are facing or the real life challenges we are having. So real life challenges, real life problems has got what objects. So that object was required to represent into the programming. So we have got classes, we have got objects. So when I talk about objects, it is nothing but the actual entities. Now, I have this mobile phone. This is an example of an object. I have this water bottle. It is also an example of object. I have this keys for the car. It is also an example of object. So everything around you is an example of object. But understand, whenever these objects have got created, it has got some blueprint, or I will say some architecture before this were built. Okay. Now I have this water bottle as an object. So when this bottle or this object was got created, there was some plan, there was some blueprint, I will say, using which we created this bottle. In that blueprint, it was there that this bottle will be of circular shape. It will be having some capacity, will be of half liter or 1 liter. It will have one cap which will revolve around, and one can, after opening this cap, will be able to drink the water. It will have some base which will be used to place the bottle safely, securely, to not avoid to avoid the spilling of the water. So what we did, we created a blueprint using which this object was created. And once the blueprint is created, I can build, or I can create thousands or lakhs of bottles from one blueprint. So similarly, in OOPS, we have classes, and using classes, which is nothing but a blueprint, we can create multiple objects which will tell that what function or what physical property or functional property a object will be having. Okay, so every object has got some physical property and some functional property. Physical property is something which is static, and functional property is something which is behavioral. Now, to open the cap and closing the cap is a behavioral property of this bottle, or a functional property. But the capacity of this bottle of 1 liter is the static property, or the physical property of this bottle. So similarly, as I told you, a class is a blueprint which will have got what, some physical property as well as some functional property. Okay, so again, coming back, classes are the blueprints and objects are the actual entity of those blueprint. Okay, now this OOPS concept has got one more abbreviation which is known as API, which stands for abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation. Now, what are this? We will discuss this in the later part of the series, and I make sure that you understand what these concepts are with real life examples while implementation. Now, let's move ahead and let's try to understand what do we understand by logical programming languages. So it is something quite different. So in logical programming languages, we don't define the steps to get the results. Okay, instead of steps, we have we define some rules, some facts, and let the system figure out what should be the logic. And one famous or popular example of logical programming is Prolog, if you have ever heard about it. Okay, for example, you will tell something like, you will tell one fact that John is a man. Then let's say you tell or told a rule that all men are mortal, and there will be some like query like, is John mortal? There will be a question, and here comes Prolog, and this program will answer logically. This is actually used in today's AI driven systems which we are using all around. Okay, the expert systems we are using. So a very famous example we can take, like, we have Chat GPT, which we use in our daily lives. It also use something, the similar kind of thing which I just talked about. It takes rules, it takes facts into account, and accordingly it answers our questions. All right, now it means that logical programming is all about rule and fact based, and it will answer the question logically. And this programming languages are generally used in AI and expert systems. But understand, uh, it is not like that ki only uh, language, programming language, can be used for implementing this logical programming. It can be done by popular programming languages as well, like Python, or Java or C++, where we have got loops, functions, then we have uh, data types using which we can uh, create whole logic and make the system to answer it logically. Okay, now let's discuss the last fourth type of programming paradigm, which is functional programming. So in this type, functions are the primary building blocks. Now understand, or we must understand what exactly function means. So functions are a piece of a code, I will say, which is meant to perform some, uh, I will say, action, or to perform some, uh, I will say, to answer some question, or uh, to give the solution to a problem. Okay, so the uh, functional programming languages include Scala, it includes R, it's having Python. There is one more programming language which is known as Haskell, using which we can achieve the functional programming. And this type of programming is more popular in the field of data science, and where we require parallel processing. Okay, so you can just simply think of mathematical expression or a formula where we have something f of x. So if I say x plus 2, so it will always give us the same output if x is the same. Okay, so x will get replaced with something. So this is how our functional programming actually works. So in conclusion, we can say that we understood about program, we understood about what programming is, we understood we use languages like Python to write programs. And depending on our need, we use a different programming paradigms like procedural, OOPS, logical, and or functional. So we will go deeper in each of this in future videos, especially focusing on how Python allows us to blend paradigms easily, which means that Python can be used for procedural, logical, OOPS oriented, or functional, whatever is required. Okay, so this particular slide is all about the evolution, which we just discussed, that initially we had binary languages, zeros and ones, which was very hard for humans to understand. Then came assembly level language. Then we had procedural programming languages. Okay, so here we have OOPS concept, which we discussed. We have classes and objects. We have abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation, then logical programmings, functional programmings. So this is all about the paradigms of programming. Now let's get into quickly the other presentation where we will understand about Python programming. Okay, specifically to Python programming. And if I talk about Python, so it is one of the popular programming language which was created by Guido van Rossum in the year 1991. So it is not much older. It is just, I will say, 34, 35 years old. And it is used in various fields, various places, for solving various types of problems. All right. So when I talk about Python, it can be used, or it is used for web development. It is used for uh, shell scripting. It is used for data science. It is used for, I will say, system scripting. So in multiple walk of a life, this programming language is used. Now, why the question comes is why this is used. So when I talk about Python, it is easy to read, to write. Like it is very much similar to your English language. You will feel that you are working with some grammars or some English word, because that easy it is. So even for someone who is new to coding, he will find it very easy. And on the other hand, we have some low level languages like assembly languages, binary languages, which are complex and which are harder to understand, to read. Okay, then as I told earlier, Python is a interpreted language, which means you don't need to compile your code into machine level machine languages before running it. Okay, you write the code and run it line by line, which is very much similar, uh, like giving instructions to the computer step by steps. Okay, and in today's world, I will say that Python is one of the most popular programming language in the world. It can be used for web development, it can be used for software development, it is used in automation, data science, artificial intelligence, shell scripting, system scripting, and much more. Now, what all Python can do? So, we have got amazing things Python can help us to build, to or to automate. Let's take an example. If I want to build a web application, so Python comes up with some frameworks like Django, Flask, which is used to build powerful websites. Like in my own organization, we are using Django framework for backend development. Then the popular applications such as in Instagram, Pinterest are using Python for their backend development. Then when I talk about software development, Python can be used to create desktop application like calculators or even games. Python also comes with very powerful features which is used for accessing the databases. We can use Python to connect it with a database. It can be MySQL, it can be PostgreSQL, SQLite, or to build any kind of application that stores and retrieve the data. Python is also used like for handling the file, to read the file, to write into the file. It can be any file, it can be Word file, Excel file, or text file. Python can do that very easily. Then Python has got powerful libraries which is used into big data, into machine learning. It can be used for mathematics. So Python is something a go-to language which can be used for data analysis or to handle massive large amount of data sets. If you even want to do any kind of prototyping, if you are designing an idea quickly, Python will let you build and test it faster than many other languages. So in short, in a gist, I can say that Python is a versatile, and it's like a Swiss army knife of the programming world, which can do anything and everything. Now the question comes in, why Python? Why we should go with it, or why I should prefer Python over other language? So yeah, this is a great question, and we should have some strong reasons to go with Python. So the first thing about Python is that it is cross-platform. It means that Python can work on any kind of operating system you work into. It can work with Windows, it can work with Mac, it can be Linux, it can be Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, or even the small devices like Raspberry Pi. Now, if I compare it with Java or C++, those are not cross platform. Let's say if I'm using Windows and I'm compiling some Java program in my Windows platform, so it can't be used in my Linux system or it cannot be used in my Mac system because they are platform dependent. Once, so Python can be called as write once and use many times. It simply we can say that. Then the second advantage which we are having with Python is that the syntax, not just syntax, simple syntax, I will say, because Python is very, like the code which we write into Python is very close to English, and we don't have to memorize the things or the complex syntax. Syntax is something is the way we write the programs using programming language. Then for writing any kind of a program, we don't have to write lengthy instructions, lengthy programs as compared to your C, Java, or C++. Python let you write less code to do the same job. The next thing which we discussed, that it is interpreted based language, which means we don't, this means we can write and test our code line by line using tools like Jupyter Notebook, Colab, VS Code, or any online platforms which we are having. It supports multiple paradigms. It supports procedural, it supports oops, it supports functional. So whatever you are just starting or switching from any other language, Python will definitely will make it more smoother, because it is not something which is very much complex, very much hectic. You can learn and implement very easily. Okay, now let's compare the syntax of Python with other programming languages. Now, syntax, as I said, syntax is nothing but the way we write the program. So, first thing comes up is readability. How easy is Python to read, or the program which is written into the using Python? So, Python syntaxes are very clean and readable, and it is much more like your English. If you are very much good or familiar, only familiar with English, you will be able to understand Python. Then in Python, we have lines versus semicolons. So whenever we write a Python program, whenever we get into a new line, our previous lines ends up there itself. But whenever we are writing any program using C++ or Java, to define that this is the end of the line, we have to use a semicolon, and this is not the case with Python. Python has got indentations, which are nothing but the spaces and tabs to define the block of a code, whereas other languages use curly brackets, which makes the things more complex. But when we are having indentation tabs, it makes our code more clearer and concise to understand, to read, to implement. Okay, now this is something, these are the some reasons using for which we go with uh, Python as compared to other programming languages. Now, we can have just a simple demo on the Jupyter Notebook where we will try to, I will say, we will try to install Jupyter Notebook, and then we will have this the implementation of Python in our next episode. Okay, so for this episode, we will close with the installation of Jupyter Notebook. So let me help you in guiding about the installation about Jupyter Notebook. So let me share some other document which will help us to go with the installation of the same. Okay, all right. So this is the document using which we will try to install Python first, and similarly we will then install Jupyter Notebook, an interface where we can write Python programming. Okay, so to work with Python, firstly we have to install the Python. So for installing the Python, I can simply get into the official website of Python, which is www.python.org/download page. So let me get into it. So here I will just type python.org/downloads. Okay. So this is the page from where I will be able to see the different versions of Python. And here I can see this is the latest version for Windows. So depending upon the platform or the operating system, you can download a Python. It can be Linux, Mac OS, or other whatever you are having. So as of now, I'm having Windows. So I will go with this same option where I'm able to see the version 3.1, 3.5. I will click on download, and here you will be able to see that it has got download, and this is an .exe file. It means that it is a application. Okay. Now let me open this downloaded file, and once I open it up, it is saying that upgrade to Python 3.1, 3.5. It means that already I have Python installed in my system, but now I am upgrading this version of Python from 3.1.2 I'm having, and I'm moving towards 3.1.3. Okay, so I will upgrade it, and it will ask that, do you really want to make changes to the system? I will say yes, and it is installing Python 3.1.3.5. So this will be, the steps will be same for everyone, but as you can see, I already had Python uh, previous version with me, so it is upgrading. For you, it will be installing in the same manner. So let it get installed. Meanwhile, we can get into the document. So we simply click on the download Python button, and the download is complete, and I opened up the installer. And if it asks for add Python to the path, you have to click on that checkbox, and you have to simply click on install now. And after that, you can finish setting this up. Okay, so still it is setting up. Now once this installation is completed, I can verify if this installation is completed or not using CMD or the terminal of that system. And I can simply write a command which is Python space hyphen hyphen version, and it should return the version of your Python which is installed. So this will go like this. So already I have Python installed. So let me show you this. So here I can simply type Python hyphen hyphen version, and I press enter. You can see the version of Python here. It is Python 3.13.5. Once you verify your Python if it is installed, the next step would be that we have to install the pip command if it is not already installed. Now understand, pip command is generally used to install something using CMD or the terminal. Okay, now pip usually comes with Python, but still if you want to check if it is there or not, I will use pip hyphen hyphen version, and here it should give me the version for the pip. So let us wait and check. So here you will see The version for pip it is 24.3.1. Okay. Once this is done, it returns a version number and we are good to go. Now the fourth step would be we just install Python, but we also need a interface from where we can implement Python. So for doing so, I have to install a Jupyter notebook, which is a platform where we can write our programs and execute those programs. And for doing so, this is completed. So I will close this. So for doing so, I will use a command which is pip install notebook. So here I am, once I install Python and I use this command to install a notebook, it will basically download or install Jupyter Notebook for me from where I can do programming using Python. So here you can see it is saying requirement already satisfied, which means this notebook is already installed in my system. So if you're doing for the first time, it will simply install it for you. Okay. Now, once the installation gets completed, we can launch the Jupyter Notebook. So for launching the Jupyter Notebook, we just have to write this command, which is Jupyter Notebook. So here I will type Jupyter Notebook, and it should simply launch the Jupyter Notebook for me. And here we go. Let us wait for some time. It will find the files configurations and it will open up the Jupyter Notebook for me. And you can see that it has opened up the tab for Jupyter Notebook in one of the Chrome window in a Chrome tab. And from here, I can start working with Python. So the last thing which I will add to here is like if I want a platform or a terminal from where I can uh, write Python program, simply I will click on new. And here I am having Python 3. I will click on it. It will open up a Jupyter notebook from where we can start writing the programs. So here in today's session, we discussed about what are what a program is, what is programming, what are the different types of programming paradigms we are having, what Python is, why Python should be used, where it is used, and how we can install Jupyter Notebook in our local system. So that's it for the day. We will be meeting in the next session of this Python series where we will go ahead with the demonstration of this particular Jupyter notebook and we will be also kicking off our first Python program. So that's it for the day. Thank you. Thank you for joining in.